All right, I want to talk about the Trump peace plan for the Middle East. Some new developments have been shared, but there are other news articles out there I also want to say something about. Number one, about the coming GDP report that uh, will be coming from the Bureau of Economic Analysis, and it looks as though we are going to be growing at in excess of 4%. And when I say we, I mean the United States. And if you don't understand what that means, it means that we are in fabulous financial condition here in the United States, and that on the heels of an announcement by the Trump administration that the European Union has buckled under the pressure of tariffs and are now agreeing to be fair with the United States in trade talks that will, for the first time, keep other countries from robbing the United States and placing stiff tariffs on our products and make it an even playing field. That's just one of many things that the Trump administration has done. And if the liberals in Congress and in the Senate would get out of the way, he could do a whole lot more. Now, like I said, that's just one of many things that he's done. I mean, starting with the appointment of conservative judges and also Supreme Court judges. It's one thing that I've learned from this president. I don't care necessarily that he's a moral man. It would be nice if he were, but the truth of the matter is I'm looking for results. And I'm looking for him to keep his promises, and that's exactly what he's done. And the liberals can continue to downplay all the results that have taken place, but the truth of the matter is they're in a heap of trouble, and he needs to keep piling it on. And I have to believe that the American public has enough sense to see through all of the liberal agendas that are trying to be played out by the Democratic Party or whoever. I don't even, like I said, I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm a realist, and what I see that the president is doing is real. And frankly, I always vote with my hand on the Bible and to look and see exactly where the candidates stand when it comes to abortion. And others may say, well, you shouldn't do that because that's only one issue out of many. Well, the bottom line is like this. The United States has the burden of murder on their hands for 60 million babies. In order for God to really bless us, we need to get that straightened out. And I've talked to other people who are from other countries, and of course, all the candidates that they have to vote for are all abortionists. And certainly that gives you very little hope in voting your conscience and voting the Bible. But the bottom line is that you need to figure out a way to get rid of those leaders who are abortionists and change your situation. I talked to one lady from a nearby country that said that all the candidates that are available all are abortionists. And the only thing I can say is this right here is that somebody needs to rise up in those countries and challenge them on this issue of abortion. It wasn't that long ago that America was in a turmoil, and they still are, really. And I expect a great battle if, in fact, that Judge Kavanaugh, if he is confirmed, which I do believe he will be, but if his confirmation, it will tip the scales toward a conservative Supreme Court for many decades to come. That will put the abortion issue back to each individual state, and many of them have triggers to reverse Roe versus Wade the minute that takes place. So it can be accomplished. You just need to get on your knees and pray, and then take action and allow the Lord to lead you in the way that you might be able to defeat this great sin as well. But now on to the Middle East. Here's an article coming from the Times of Israel. It says 2 Syrian rockets set to land in Sea of Galilee near crowded tourist beach. And, this is something that Israel has to deal with every single day from almost every direction. And certainly there are calls from the UN that Israel needs to show constraint every time something like this happens, every time either Hamas or Syria or one of the other rebel groups shoots rockets into Israel. Israel needs to show restraint. Well, they know the bottom line is that if it happened in any other country, that there would be war. The restraint wouldn't even be a byword. It would be war. Here's an article coming out of the Times of Israel as well. It says former cricket star claims election victory in Pakistan amid fraud allegations. Well, this is bad news for the United States because he is completely against any cooperation with the United States and what's going on with Pakistan helping the United States defeat the Taliban in Afghanistan. So that could very well make some big changes in that region and make the war effort in that area much tougher. And ahead of a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, the article says that Erdogan evaluates Syria situation ahead of Putin meeting in South Africa. So these two leaders who are in Syria are about ready to meet and talk over the situation as it goes forward. Now, as many of you know, the Syrian civil war is basically over, and it looks like to me now that Turkey, Iran, Russia, and Syria are going to be the main players in Syria and will take control of that area. And certainly, to give you an idea of what side Turkey's on, when the United States asked Turkey to stop buying fuel and gas from Iran, they flatly refused. So that tells you right there that if in fact a war was to break out in the Middle East, that you know whose side Turkey is going to be on. And one thing's for sure, you don't see any summits with President Trump and President Erdogan coming up anytime soon. That relationship looks to be sidelined and probably dead on arrival. Now moving on to Palestinian news. In a recent article by Fox News, it says that Haley, talking about Nikki Haley, pressures Arab states to step up on Palestinian aid. We are not the fools. You know, the United States gets blasted a lot for freezing funds to the Palestinians because they continue to pay families of terrorists stipends for causing havoc and killing Israelis or kidnapping or whatever they can do to disrupt the region and make Israel look bad. Well, because of that, the United States has cut off much of the aid to the Palestinians because they keep supporting terrorism and terrorists and their families. And if all the money were counted up, it comes to be somewhere around $500 million. And since the United States has frozen all those funds, much of the Middle East has stayed dormant when it comes to the Palestinian, to funding the Palestinians. So Ambassador Haley decided to get up and condemn the rest of the Arab world, who was blasting the United States for cutting off of these funds. And she was saying, well, how come that these Arab states haven't stepped up and filled in the gap where the United States has frozen these funds? In other words, why haven't you picked up the $500 million tab if you were so concerned? In fact, not one of them has increased their financial support. And for those who have, it's so insignificant that they simply are in dire straits. So the truth of the matter is that the Arab world simply they're not concerned about the Palestinian blight nor what's going on in the Gaza Strip. They just want the United States to keep funding these terrorist organizations so that they don't have to. In fact, the statistic is that Iran gives $0 to the Palestinians as far as through the UN is concerned. Now, of course, they do fund their terrorist organizations, but they do not give to any crisis programs that go in and help the Palestinian people. So the bottom is we understand what their goal is. They realize that the Palestinian people are an illegitimate, displaced bunch of Jordanians. And they're using them as pawns to get their way and to keep the pressure on Israel and also the United States. Well, with this new administration coming in with the United States, we're not having any of that. And I hope the United States continues to put the pressure on the Palestinians to come back to the table by withholding funds that these terrorists need. Now, speaking of the Palestinian terrorists, there's a new article out by the Times of Israel that talks about the upcoming release of the regional peace plan for the Middle East. It says that Trump peace plan said to include major economic scheme for Palestinians. I'm going to read a little bit about that article so kind of give you an idea. It says the long-awaited U.S. plan for an Israeli-Palestinian peace plan will include the most detailed proposals ever offered to the parties, a White House official said Wednesday. The official who spoke on condition of anonymity said that the plan would include a major economic component, according to Reuters. He said the White House has yet to announce the scheme or the schedule for releasing the plan, and the official said a strategy for rolling it out was still being developed. Expectations that the White House would begin pushing the plan ramped up last month when top White House aide Jared Kushner and senior negotiator Jason Greenblatt toured the region, apparently to drum up support for the scheme in Israel and among Arab allies. The U.S. President Donald Trump has long promised to try and reach the so-called deal of the century to end the long simmering Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but his efforts have derailed since his decision to transfer the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem. The Palestinian Authority has castigated the move, declared the U.S. no longer an honest broker in negotiations, and rejected any plan the White House may come out with PA President Mahmoud Abbas calling it the slap of the century earlier this year. Abbas, who did not meet with Kushner or Greenblatt, also protested last month after signals emerged that the plan may seek to deal with the West Bank and Gaza as two separate entities. It's unclear what type of economic package may be on the table, but the comment comes a week after the op-ed in the Washington Post from Kushner and Greenblatt, and U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman called on Gaza's Hamas rulers to end their support for terror in exchange for lavish U.S. aid. On Tuesday, U.S. envoy Nikki Haley told the UN Security Council that the U.S. continued to be one of the biggest financial supporters of the Palestinians, far outstripping Muslim countries, which are more vocal supporters of the Palestinian cause. The U.S. has frozen millions in aid to the UN's refugee agency for the Palestinians and has cut funding for the PA over Abbas' refusal to enter negotiations and Ramallah's payments to terror convicts and their families. At the same time, she also threatened that those cuts could even be deeper if, in fact, things don't change. She continues and says, "We are not fools. If we extend a hand in friendship and generosity, we do not expect our hand to be bitten," she said. So finally, administration has wised up to the terrorist organizations in the Middle East. And as I said, I hope that the United States continues to be tough on these terrorist organizations and don't buckle under to the UN. Now, here are some things that I would probably be looking out for. Of course, we've heard a few rumblings in the Middle East, starting with the United States and Iran exchanging tweets. Certainly heard that Israel shot down a Russian-made jet that a Syrian pilot crossed over into Israeli territory and paid the price. And certainly this sounds more like war than it does peace, but the bottom line is that I think this peace process will probably be the next major thing that will be introduced into the region. Now, I do believe the Trump administration will introduce it. Whether or not they will actually complete it is unknown. The Bible does say that whoever brings peace to the Middle East will come out of the European Union. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens on that situation. But they are looking to keep up the pressure against organizations such as Hamas and also Fatah in the West Bank. And, you might as well call them what they are. They're terrorist groups. They're just terrorists that are wearing suits now. But Mr. Trump has decided to try to financially talk them into coming back to the table by throwing lavish aid packages at either or Hamas or Fatah. And it'll be interesting to see if, in fact, they do buckle under to the lost aid that they have and decide to take up the Trump administration's aid packages. But I sincerely hope that he keeps the pressure up on these two organizations, along with Iran, North Korea, and any other country that at this time he's in negotiations with. And certainly, if you don't know the Lord, today is the day of salvation. Don't put it off. 150,000 people will die today, the Bible says. that the vast majority will end up in a burning hell. You don't want that to happen to you. Once you go to hell, it's over. You're there for an eternity. And as far as Scripture is concerned, the only relief that you might have is when you are taken out of hell for a moment, judged, and then sent and tossed into the lake of fire. That's what the Scriptures do say. So don't put this thing of salvation off. It will be your most important decision in your lifetime. So you need to get that settled right now. And you Christians, you need a copy of my Tribulation Period Survival Guide. I have both a free version and a paid version. Now, both are both are the same. One's just a paperback, and the other one is a digital version. So go down to the description section in this video, click on the link, and it'll take you to either or, and you can make your selection there. Well, this is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.